Welcome to Carter's Country Club. This is episode 2, Bikes, Buoys, and Ballet. And my larger question for the whole episode is, are you raising a boy? This is part 4. And I am going to show a lot of videos today, or in this section, in this part with this content. But first, I want to ground us in with some country music. So let's take a listen and take a breath.
I was thinking that night about Elvis. Did he die? Did he die? I was thinking that night about Elvis. Did he die? Did he die? Just a country boy that combed his hair, put on a shirt his mother made, and went on the air, and he shook it like a chorus girl, and he shook it like a Harlem queen, and he shook it like a midnight ramble, baby, like he never seen, like he never seen, never seen.
Okay. I know. You want me to keep moving? I will keep moving forward. And yes, I referenced in episode 1 about Elvis's connection to the CIA, and you can dig much deeper into that, of course. But the reason, oh my gosh, there's so many things that I think of when I listen to that song. But the one thing, there's Squirtsy in the background. The one thing that I was thinking about this morning was, his mother combed his hair because that's what I got to do for Carter this morning before he went to his play, his first performance. So I dropped him off after I recorded part 3, and now I'm back. I had some audio issues again as I recorded part 4, so I'm doing it again. Like I said, I've talked about these things many times. So I want to keep moving. We're going to get a little bit more into swim, as I referenced in part 3. So, to learn to read is to light a fire. Every syllable that is spelled out is a spark. And that's the journey that, Carter is on right now. He, loves listening to audiobooks and loves listening to all kinds of classic literature. He's finishing Anne of the Island right now, which is the third book in the Anne of Green Gables series. But here he's just looking at a spot book with his cousin Phoebe. You'll see Phoebe in just a moment. I feel that these images were shared in social media, so it's kind of okay to share them. But we'll see. We'll see. As I mentioned, I come from a really big family on my dad's side. I'm the oldest of 4. My siblings are awesome. I probably have rambled on in previous recordings about them, but I was 4 when Lucy was born, and I was 11 when Melissa was born, and I was 13 when Miller was born. They're all really special to me, and all the things, right? I'm grateful that I have a blended family because I wouldn't have Miller and Melissa if the divorce hadn't happened, and all the things. So on my mom's side is very small. It's just Lucy and I, and then my aunt had one son, so we have my cousin Steven. So he's really more like a brother to me, right? Carter was in his wedding, and so that's why the little girl in the previous image, I call her my niece, even though I guess she's I don't know, first cousin once removed or whatever they're called. On my dad's side, it's huge, right? Huge and massive. I have 16 first cousins, and I don't even know how many children we've all had, but it's pretty awesome. We get to go to my Uncle Mark's in just a couple months for 4th of July, so it'll be pretty lovely to be together. This is Carter in my cousin Steven's wedding, and he thought he was a ring bearer. He's the little one, in case you didn't know, because they said he was a ring bearer, and so he thought he was going to wear a bear costume, not a beautiful outfit that my mom made with saddle shoes. He thought he was going to have a bear costume, so he was a little bit disappointed. But this old world little chapel did not disappoint. We'll talk more about the old world in videos to come. Like I said, I have a blended family, so my family is really extended, not just because of steps and half siblings, but my mother currently is in Europe with some of her girlfriends. She has this group of women that they all went to college together and live together, and they're really, really close. And so it's kind of like having a bunch of aunts. And that picture on the stairs are two of my actual aunts, right? My biological aunt Nancy, and then Maybeth, who married my uncle Mike, who has passed. They both passed away. And then my mom's very good friend Amy, who is we're in her house in Southern California, and that's where I lived when I first moved out there when I was 19. So very much like aunts and additional moms, you know. So big family and lots of influence on me. And that is why these are some images of like our past, you know, kind of springs and this time of year that we're in. I talked about the occult season of sacrifice in episode 3, but these are images from, you know, past kind of springs, right? Where you know, things are different now, and they look different now than they did then, right? The picture of Carter on his bike and Justin walking is during COVID, and the picture above that is Carter and Edisto, one of my other mom's really good friends from college, my godmother. You know, they've taken Carter to Edisto, and Carter really would like to go back to Edisto. So he loves sand and the beach, and so we're very, you know, I share all of this because I come from this big family. I come from this close family, which is why, you know, I love the theater. I love the arts. I love being a coach. I love coaching swim and gymnastics because, you know, I come from a family of, you know, we love the kids. And so these are the children that Carter is with right now. His, you know, first time doing just a straight play, right? There's no dance to this, there's no musical theater, it's just a straight play. And so he's kind of finding his theater people, which is really cool. And I'm really excited to hear about how this first production goes. But I'm taking this time to keep plugging along because the intention is to create our own thing with Carter's Country Club. And so here's the quote that I'm thinking about as I continue to think if all children have access to the arts and all do they all have access to swimming, you know, the bikes, buoys, and ballet. And the bike part is really child led. Are people really aware and supporting the desires of their children? I don't know. That's a bigger question I want to ask. How do you say to your child in the night, nothing's all black, but then nothing's all white? How do you say it will all be all right when you know that it might not be true, right? Carter asked this morning, he said, I thought there were more boys in the theater. I know there's not a lot of boys in ballet and in dance, but I thought there was more boys in the theater. Why is it just Rex and I? And we had a little bit of a conversation, but the long and the short of it, in my opinion, is a lack of education, but also that not everybody is welcome. And so I want to keep moving along, right? It's a lack of access. Yes, I think everybody's aware of that. There's some stigmas around, you know, boys and men in the arts that I think have been busted up for a long time. But I don't know in our current world where we say male identifying dancers, I don't know if that includes everyone. Carter was brought to the ballet at a really young age. I've talked about this before. You know, I took him to his first class when he was 18 months old. That's like little Carter on the stairs. My mom took him to see the Nutcracker when he was really young. These images here are from the second time that he saw the Nutcracker. I took him down to Children at the Ballet at Nashville Ballet when he was about 18 months old and he saw Aesop's Fable. So he has had this, you know, my especially especially my younger siblings and I mean, my sister Lucy, all my siblings love the arts, but my younger siblings and I have this incredible love for music and theater and dance. And so that was, of course, right? It was of course for me. Of course, I was going to bring him to that. So here's where the videos kind of start, where you can see his progression. You can see he was 3, just, walking across the floor in a little parallel passe. Here he's 3, in tap class. And I don't know that everybody thinks about, of course, taking their children, to classes. And yes, they're learning to take class, but like the motor control, he's doing pretty awesome. And I love here where he picks up his foot, because I can see where perhaps the teacher is saying you've got to pick up your foot, meaning, to lift your leg to hear the taps. And I love that Carter, physically holds his foot there. So early access to the arts, is why he has the love of it today, and we'll dig deeper into that. But the reason why he's a mover is because he had his freedom to move, right? So he has this, what we would call like his freedom, his free body, right? He's just like on a little pre-fold diaper. But what I was noticing here is the movement milestone of him tracking something, and he cared nothing about anything else that I would show him except for these things with wheels. He just loved and loved wheels. And it's unfortunate that not everybody makes the choice to be present and be home with their child, and it is a choice. I've talked about before, if we want to talk about how we identify, I identified as a dirt bag rock climber. So I invested my time and energy in my son, not investing that in making fiat currency. I wanted to be with him. So I observed what he was doing. When he needed to keep a nap and it was raining outside, we would go to a store and he would play with a bike. We
What you
would
doing?
figure out things to do. Yes, we went to a lot of
The shoe's
gymnastics
so weird.
gyms. And you can see there he's in his little soft show
You do pretty
shoes, and they
good,
feel
Tim.
weird to him because he was not used to wearing shoes. But if a child's in daycare, you're not getting to see this. And I know that people will say to me, oh, but some people have to work. Well, I have figured out how I can generate income to support and contribute to my family as well as be with my child. You know, is that a 6-figure income? No, it's not. you
Hang on.
know, um, and we make our choices. I don't want to relate this to a sacrifice. Again, I want to reference Krivda and the God tricks against the Matrix, right? I'm not making a sacrifice. I'm making a choice. It's a clear choice, right? I chose to be with him and observe him. And, I think that some people can choose to do that and amass wealth if that's their, choice. But I made different choices. Not good, bad, right, or wrong, just different ones. I didn't know a lot about bikes, right? Carter led that way. I knew more about skateboards. So this is my old longboard. And what I also knew is that I was not introduced to skateboarding at a young age. I learned how to like skate from place to place in my late teens. I kind of felt like, oh, the cool boys skateboard, like I don't have a skateboard, and like whatever, and then I'm too old to learn to skateboard is what I felt like as a young person. But in my later teens, when I moved to Southern California, my friends were just like, well, you have to learn to skateboard because you got to like be able to get from place to place on the beach. So just learn. And I did. I talked about when I recorded this before, Carter trying to lift his foot up. You can see like he's trying to put his foot up there. In ballet, the step of the horse is pas de cheval. So if you look up pas de cheval, I love how that movement is intuitive. I always see babies doing what I call a pas de cheval. As I mentioned before, Carter had early access to water, not with me, but with our beloved Christian who cared for him, and she's doing a perfect job of holding him here. Her mom took these videos for me because I wasn't there. I was coaching and teaching at the time. But she's doing perfect. She's creating a relationship with the side. She's holding him perfectly, all of the things. And that's not because she's a swim coach. She just trusts her instincts, right? She took care of her, I guess it was her niece when she was really young. I don't want to speak for her, but she's like been a babysitter like her whole life. And so she just loves children and she really loves Carter and we really love her. And it was a perfect first introduction to water. And this is Carter with a popsicle. I said this before when I recorded this, but of course you didn't hear that recording. I made him popsicles out of a smoothie just this morning. He was a little nervous about his production, and so I made him a smoothie. And whenever we make smoothies, we take the extra and make a little popsicle. His smoothie this morning had just frozen banana and coconut milk and some berries from one of my husband's coworkers, berry bushes. This was a homemade baby formula from the Weston A. Price Foundation, and obviously leaves and dirt. So, the homemade formula from the Weston A. Price Foundation is something I recommend to any moms that struggle with their milk production. Instead of using, store bought formulas, you can make your own. It does take a little bit of time, but it's well worth it. And you can see the cloth diapers in the background. Those also take a little bit of time, but well worth it. They can have children not move so well, so Carter did spend a lot of time naked, but that's another conversation for another day. And I talked a lot about that in some previous videos that I made for Beyond Primal Movement. And if you'd like me to re-upload those, then comment here and let me know. The next video you're going to see is that same little beautiful niece that I talked about. I made this video for her mom and dad because I took her to the water for her first time because I was fortunate to watch her, in her first few months of life when they were working. Now they live down in Louisiana, but I got to spend my time with her. And there's Carter there, messing, going around the water. But this is how you do it, right? You just introduce them to the water. You get in yourself. You love them. You care for them. You hold them. If you have water that's unprotected in your background, in your backyard, or somewhere that a child could get to and have a dangerous accident, then I can understand why you might want to be more aggressive with water safety. But that's not most people. Most children just need a good, positive experience. Phoebe always loved red, and her daddy, my cousin Stephen, always loved Thomas the Tank Engine when he was little. So I had to bring out. I think that's. I don't know. You guys can correct me. Is that Percy? Henry? I don't know. Stephen would know. I didn't watch as much Thomas the Tank Engine. So we're going to keep moving. We'll roll on to Carter's first birthday. So there's Kristen right there, Now she lives in Florida and we miss her terribly. But, it takes a village. And if you're alone, I don't want you to be alone. We need to be together. We need to get together. So that's the goal of Carter's Country Club, is to create this community. You can hear Quartz's feet, and literally he just jumped up on the ledge, right? That window seat ledge is to my left right now. But this was Carter's first birthday. And you can see him just being with everybody. It's loud because my family is loud. Yeah, there's my sister Lucy. There's Chunk. Chunk is gone now. Look, Carter doesn't even care about Chunk. He's just going to run him over with the wooden walker. That's all he wanted to do, was push things and push wheels. Just so you know, everybody is having like this stevia lemonade and tea that I made. They're not all boozing it up. I mean, they could be, no judgment there, but I love to make tea and lemonade. That's always our party thing. But yeah, look at him, We've got to be involved. We've got to be there with them. It's up to us, and we've got to figure out whatever choices we need to make to be with them. That's what they need. And I knew about movement. So Carter has been, I'm sitting on a 55 centimeter ball right now. That's a 55 centimeter Swiss ball. Look at him. He's perfect. And he's reacting. My dad's stoked because my dad's like, it's a ball. It doesn't matter that it's not a basketball or a football. It's a ball. And Carter's reacting with his hands. So.
Definitely. I'm gonna do a long one now. Here it comes. Here it comes.
And see, he doesn't react because we don't react, right? Oh, no, he reacts with his paw. He puts his little hand up. So, don't miss out on this and put him in daycare. You can figure it out. I tried a few different daycare options because Carter was so social and I wanted to keep teaching, but it never worked. It never worked. I mean, it was good because we could do some things sporadically and keep him around a lot of kiddos because he is so social. But the best place is with you. So for Carter's first birthday, my dad brought him over this tractor, and you can see his perfect pointed foot right here, and how he's
Are you
just
pointing your feet?
working. I know I call it pointing feet.
Oh, you can just get your toes down there.
He's just working, right? And that seat, Carter,
Almost.
Carter, when he watched this, he was like, "That seat still comes off." Well, the Power Wheels tractor finally died, but it went through two other children before it came to Carter, and then it
That's so
came to
funny.
him, and I think literally just within the last year, it finally totally died out. It's pretty impressive
I don't think your
for
legs are quite
a
long
Power
enough for a
Wheels
gray.
vehicle. But this is what he was into, right? He was interested in vehicles. He likes to make fun of me a lot. And maybe you've heard that before. Maybe I've shared that on a previous episode. He liked to make fun of me for calling everything a bulldozer because that's what I did. But I did know about movement and I did know about rock climbing. And actually, I was telling my mom the other day, she was talking about how to help my niece, Charlotte, one of my other nieces, how to help her climb up and climb down. And I said, she's got to master the down climb. And so here's Carter
Mm-hmm.
mastering the down climb.
Good
And he's got some
job.
soft sole shoes on, just like the ones he was wearing earlier. But these
Setting up for
were
the down climb.
really
Good
cool because we
job.
found a bunch
That's
of
it, Carter Gray.
creative ones at
That's
some
it.
consignment stores that really hadn't been worn. And these had fire engines
Got
on
it?
them, and he had some pirate ones. And so we could climb in them and just tear them up.
That's it.
Look at him putting his hand down.
Yeah, good
His little
job.
belly is scraping
Good
there.
job, buddy. Good job. Almost down. Yeah, good
I love the little
job.
dinosaur on the bottom. Carter does not care anything about dinosaurs. Maybe he knew more than me. I don't know.
You
I
gonna go back
always
up?
was big into dinosaurs.
You found a little bit of rock? Great.
He's watching
Good
the other
job.
children. You know, you got to be there, right? And there's no reason to hold their hand, okay? There's no reason to hold their hand on steps and stairs. Teach them how to down climb, right? That doesn't mean you let them, just fall and tell them what to do. Just, Carter had experienced down climbing a lot, which is how he could navigate this little rock in a playground. Okay, so lots to show here in this slide. So I'm going to end on this one for today, or excuse me, for this part, for part four. And I'm going to read this quote from Steiner. Love is higher than opinion. If people love one another, then most varied opinions can be reconciled. Thus, one of the most important tasks for humankind today and in the future is that we should learn to live together and understand one another. If this human relationship is not achieved, all talk of development is empty. I can't say it better myself. That's why I'm using these quotes. And I have an image here from Paul Check. Um, where if you don't know about Paul Chek and the Chek Institute, I really invite you to do your research. I have been fortunate myself to benefit from Paul's students. I have not worked with Paul directly, but many of his practitioners have supported me in my life. And I referenced in episode one how much Paul's view during 2020 was instrumental and supportive. And he is a student of Steiner. I am nowhere near the Steiner scholar that Paul is, but I was fortunate to live on a farm in North Boulder, Colorado that had a Waldorf school, so I got to see some of those things firsthand. And just like I've referenced with everything, just because I'm referencing Steiner here doesn't mean that I agree with everything he had to say and offer, but these words are perfect. And I want to just show you some of Carter's other movements as we think about this loving connection and that we've got to come together, because that's what I'm doing, right? The whole reason why I'm here online is to invite you to be with us offline. So there's Carter watching ballet classes. Now he takes class in that studio. Oh, now he's going to take off, try to go down those stairs. Yeah. Sorry for the audio. I did turn these things down, but it is still a little bit loud, right? So maybe more boys would be interested in ballet if they were exposed to it. We'll talk about more of the other reasons why I feel that they're not welcome, but they definitely need exposure. And this is Carter in some of my mother's
What are
favorite
you doing,
things,
Carter
which are
Gray?
a smocked romper. I love
Can
the
you turn this
little
way?
beautiful
What are you
classical
wearing?
children's clothing.
There's fire
There's fire
trucks.
trucks on there, which my mom did not make these, and
You're
she's not as much
jumping.
of a fan when they have too much going on in them. But Carter liked fire trucks, so it was kind of like a happy medium of we love the classic clothing, Carter likes vehicles. And now that this trampoline finally died, it went through one family, through us, and then I brought it to where I teach recreational gymnastics. And see, Carter's doing a perfect example of look, he could have stumbled, but he fixed his feet and he sat down. I work with children that are his age, between the ages of 1 and 2, to work on jumping off with 2 feet. And we work on holding our body weight either on gymnastics rings or on a preschool bar. So, this last video here, you can see him kind of
Good job,
swinging,
Carter Gray.
kind of intuitively just playing with them. And
Can you pick your
these
toes up?
rings are now at
Good
they hang out
job.
at the gymnastics gym, but they did hang right on the pull-up bar that lives in the bathroom that is behind me. Sometimes that drives Justin crazy. Oh, cars have a little groove right there. Um, oh yeah, because he's listening to Blippy Volume 2 Vehicles, I believe. Not country music and not wonderful classical music, but about boys and trucks and vehicles. So I think he found that because he asked my mom's Alexa to play a garbage truck song. And then we found out that Blippi sings about all kinds of vehicles. So Carter still takes over the living room to this day. That large rug is in his room. He has a smaller rug down here. But there's still, Swiss balls and weights and all of those kind of things. That's the way we live. So I'm going to close it out today with if you haven't read any of Steiner's work, I invite you to read. Um, that's what I'm going to continue to do. And we'll talk more about reading and books in part 5. So thank you for listening. And I hope that this has inspired you to be involved actively with the children in your life and to make the choices that you need to make to be with them. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.